Recording. There we go.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We will kick off in just a few minutes. We will just wait for a few more attendees to join. Let me get my screen shared. So we usually kick off at 1 or 2 past. Go from there. Make sure I've got everything closed. I have a terrible habit of leaving things open when I do these every time.
Yeah, we don't want to see that, Ben.
Yeah.
Oh wow, there's lots of familiar names in there. Awesome. It's always a pleasant surprise. Like revisiting my community.
Yeah, I was going to say, you'd know a few of these guys. Yeah, there is quite a few from the community in here. I need the elevator music just quietly queuing in the background. Thank you, Luke.
I'd offer to sing, but no one deserves that.
I've got a 3-year-old, and at the moment I know every single word for "Let It Go," so I can do a wonderful word for word for that. But
I think everyone.
I'll save everyone the pain.
Have you got a hosted network jingle yet? We need one. I think it's about time.
Oh, I'll get working.
Don't say that. Luke will get.
I was going to say.
There you go. See,
that's going to be Luke's shiny coin.
That's going to be the best idea of this afternoon session.
All right. Give me 1 second, and we will kick off. Just realised I've put my notes on the wrong screen. All right. Well, thank you for joining us today, guys. Today's topic is on driving value to your MSP. So through adapting business frameworks, right? These last few MSPs in conversation, we've talking heavily around operational maturity of your business, and business frameworks are a way that we can accelerate that. And we've got today on the line, we've got Aaron, Dan, and Luke. I will get each of them to introduce themselves in a second, but thank you for joining us, guys. A little bit of housekeeping before we jump into it, though. For qualified MSPs, you will have all received an Uber Eats voucher for lunch. Lunch is on us. If you haven't, please drop it into the chat. Our team are standing by to answer any questions and just sort that out for you if there's been any issues there. But very quickly, and I won't do the sales pitch, who is Hosted Network? Hosted Network are an Australian wholesale cloud and telco provider for MSPs, right? Everything we do is about the partner experience. Our services range from desktop as a service, connectivity, infrastructure, and voice. And we serve over a good 150 MSPs across Australia. And everything that we do is designed for MSPs, right? So if most of you on the call will have already heard of us, so I won't go into too much detail there, and we'll keep it on topic. So introduction to today's panelists, starting from left to right. So Aaron, can you give us a quick intro to yourself and Roden?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Ben. So Aaron Jacobs, General Manager of Roden. We are 26 full-time staff, manage about 4,000 seats, based in Wollongong, but operate over New South Wales and the country. And been in business for 26 years, I think it is. And I've been with the business for about 19. So long time EOS partner, hosted network partner, doing it all.
Thanks. And Dan?
Awesome, thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm Dan Williams. Recognise a lot of names in the participants list there. 20 years or so in MSP land. I've earned every grey hair that I have from being in there for 20 odd years. Former owner and director of PowerNet IT Solutions. It's a national MSP, about 80, 90 people. I've been out of that business for a couple of years now, and I've been an EOS implementer, certified EOS implementer for 4 years. Also am the community builder. So I'm responsible for building the EOS implementer community, which is the coaching community, and also coaching them. So that's a big responsibility. But yeah, I appreciate you having me here today.
That's great to have you. And Luke, friendly face, give us a quick intro. Who are you?
For those of you who don't know me, my name is Luke Bragg. I have been working in, on, and with MSPs for, I think, the better part of 15 years now. I got to tick it over. My birthday was on the weekend, so I can now say officially 15 years I've been doing this for, and I've only just started the grey hairs. Just. During that time.
Yeah, and when they start coming, they come in force.
Oh yeah, they're coming. They're coming. During that time, I have worn many hats, but I am currently the operations manager here at Hosted Network and have been for what seems like forever.
In a positive light, I hope.
In a positive
I was
way,
going to
of
say that was a bit.
Cool. All right. Well, let's cover today's topic a little bit. So I'm going to turn my share off so you can see our beautiful faces in a second. But today's topic: adapting business frameworks. You've already heard EOS mentioned a couple of times, but one of the reasons that we're running today's session on this topic is that most of the high performing MSPs in our partner community run a business framework, right? So when we were looking at what topics that we can provide value to our partner base, that was one of the ones that stood out most. So again, the high performing MSPs, the guys that have run rate sales, they're winning deals, but they're also growing, and they typically run some form of a business framework. So today we've got Aaron is our, use case of a business framework as an MSP. Dan is our, industry expert, and Luke is our representation of how we've adapted it ourselves. Because, we, as many of you know, we started as an MSP. We had many of the same challenges, and business frameworks don't just touch MSPs. They really benefit all businesses. But we're going to keep the topic to MSPs mostly today. Remember, today's session will be recorded, so don't worry if you have to drop off. We usually try to keep this to an hour, but we may go over a little bit. So if you do have to drop off, completely understand. We will send out the recording within the next day or so. And if you do have any questions, I really encourage you to drop them in the chat. This isn't a scripted session at all, so we do want you to encourage you to jump in and ask any questions that you might have of our panelists today. All right, let me stop sharing. So, Dan, I'm going to start with you because you can probably give the most succinct answer given that you're an EOS implementer. But what the heck is a business framework, and why should a business look at actually implementing them?
So given we have an MSP community, it makes it really easy for me to explain it to you. So a business framework is kind of like an operating system for your business. So it sounds a little bit cheesy, but we're peddling operating systems in terms of platform, or you're running your PC or your Mac. It's effectively like having a system in your business that is the foundation for everything. So one of the objections that I often get from people is, I don't have time for something like that. It's actually designed to give you back time. So by having a system that gives you a rhythm to run your business, to operate on top of, it's like a foundation. It gives you that control of your business. And so specifically EOS, I'm not an expert in any other system, and I'm probably still on a path to mastery with EOS, if I'm honest. And I don't think you ever really get there to that mastery. The EOS is a really simple set of tools, systems, that is designed to give you that control of your business. So we have a promise as an EOS implementer that we'll give you three things. It's vision, traction, and healthy. And so vision is about clarity of vision. So where you're headed, why as well. That's an important aspect. Where you're headed, and we distill it into a really simple format so that you can share that with everyone in the business. I was speaking with a startup today who asked me if they could have half an hour to sort of get an understanding. And I said to them that most businesses don't have a plan, and they sort of had a look on their face. Then I said, "Do you have one?" And they said, "No, we don't." I said, "That's okay. This is really simple. It's about getting that. It's a game changer, just getting people on that vision." And so the second one is traction, and so that's the tools and the processes. So simple things like how to run an effective meeting, how to plan 90 days at a time, really simple things that most businesses don't do well. And the last part is healthy. And that's about having a healthy and a cohesive team. And we focus on leadership teams through EOS. It's initially designed for leadership teams. We have a saying that as goes a leadership team, so goes the rest of the business. So if you as a leadership team feel like you're in control of the business and the operating system is working, then that perpetuates through the business. And so EOS is kind of a collection of those tools and processes that is really sort of distilled into something that's easy to consume. And that's really tempting for me to give you a longer explanation, but I'll leave it there. Hopefully that makes sense. Yeah.
I'd like to think so. Okay, so we've mentioned EOS a few times now already. From Aaron, before you adopted EOS, Luke, in your research that when you did for us, are there other models out there? And I'm going to start with Aaron, but are there, Aaron? And why did you choose EOS over?
So look, I'll be honest, I'll say there probably is, but I actually don't know. And the reason I don't know is, and I suspect it to be like many other MSPs, is that you probably think there's not one for MSPs. So there maybe not one for it's just not right for you, or you may be aware that there's things like that, but you could probably think it's not for us. We're MSPs, we don't really fit into another vertical or something of that nature. And for me, it was just really, I had these sort of great ideas and understanding of what I wanted to do, but it was just not quite getting there, or always, Dan mentioned not having time and things like that. So yeah, there's other models out there. And when I came across EOS, it was more about, well, hang on, this sounds very much like my style. That's what resonated to me from the hour or two speech that we had about it. And it just sort of really clicked for me. And I just kind of thought, well, hang on, this just really fits. So I didn't bother looking at others or comparing. I really just attached to it quite quickly and just thought that really fits my style and just really ran with it. So that's where it fit for me. And that was, I want to say somewhere between 2 and 3 years ago now. So.
Okay, cool. Luke, from your research for Hosted.
Yeah, we kind of went the opposite. We went the extreme opposite. We almost investigated and tried everything a little bit. Everything from the kind of getting things done sort of personal aspect, and trying to apply that to different departments, trying to look at things like OKR, like the objective and key results sort of method, which almost kind of suits semi into the EOS model anyway.
Yeah.
And then I've heard of true methods, but I haven't experienced it very much.
I've heard of that too. Yeah.
Trying literally Googling it and okay, that's cool, that's what it is. But yeah, we did a fair bit of research, and we actually ended up on a variation of EOS, believe it or not.
Actually, I probably should add there that there is the ConnectWise. Dan probably helped me out. I've forgotten they've rebranded it a few times. What they call their partner community now.
Yeah, the Evolve community. Yeah,
Evolve community now. Yeah, which used to be HTG back in the day. Yeah, so
I'm a facilitator in that as well. Okay. Actually, yeah.
And I assume they're quite similar. I've definitely heard some of the speakings and sat with a few of those guys, and definitely some approaches are different. I've heard them say, but some things are very similar. And Luke, you just mentioned OKR. My wife works for a large pharmaceutical company, global, and they do OKR, and I literally sit there and I listen to some of the things and.
It sounds like
right, 90-day goals. And I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. And then they say something else, and I'm like, that's an L10 meeting. Yeah, sure, okay. So
I think that's the appeal of EOS, is that there's lots of other systems out there, and EOS is really simple. And so when Gino Wickman, the creator or co-founder of EOS, formed the operating system, he picked bits and pieces of things that he knew worked and that worked really well, and then supplemented gaps where we thought things could be improved. And I think that the community, like the ConnectWise community, it's more about planning. Like they have a model called 4 plans, and so EOS complements that. And then even True Methods, quite a lot of businesses that are running EOS as the operating system underneath are using True Methods on top to optimize their their service delivery or the actual managed service component.
Really? Okay, it's interesting.
Okay, so from that, it sounds like EOS is the OS, and something like True Methods could be your ERP or your CRM, sort of.
Yeah. Great analogy. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. So we really are going to focus more around the EOS piece of it. If anyone has any questions, though, that is a little bit off topic in terms of maybe true methods or something, if we can answer it, we certainly will. But given that we have someone that runs it and an EOS expert, and it's the one that we see in the market space the most. Dan, actually, this is probably best for Aaron. At what point did you look at EOS and, or a business framework and go, yeah, we need this?
So
the
for me, the light bulb moment. Yeah. So for me, look, it was almost like I was trying to build EOS without knowing about EOS. My experience, I've been with the business for so long. We took over as GM 8-ish years ago. And for me, in those first sort of 5 years, I was really trying to, I just try to set some frameworks and things like that. My predecessor was very big on, and this is probably very relevant to many MSPs on the line, a flat structure where everyone does everything. And I knew that doesn't work, basically, or it can work to a point, but then you have to sort of break through that. And so for me, that was all about breaking through that in those first years, taking over the business and really changing things around. But then I did almost hit a ceiling. I sort of got to a point where I was trying to do things, and our meeting frequency just wasn't there. We were kind of just meeting, I think, monthly. And Dan, now looking at EOS, you think, what the hell? And like, it's just crazy. It's so, I guess one thing for EOS is it's so obvious when you get into it and when you're really doing it, and everything you do is kind of just it's so common sense, but it just puts it in a nice framework for you and just delivers it. And, we say framework like it's this big manual that you've got to work through. And I guess there is a manual, so to speak, but it's very easy to follow. The things you do are, Dan's going to hold it up. There we go. mine's on my shelf, but it's so easy to follow. But the light bulb moment, coming back to your question, Ben, was really just continually writing a lot of notes down, coming up with ideas. Maybe we should do this, trying to potentially suggest to other managers or other things in the business, let's do this, not really getting there, maybe not getting buy-in, or maybe just not really being able to sell the vision properly. And then for me, just having an explanation given to me of what EOS is, like I said earlier, it just clicked. I thought, hang on, that is exactly my style. It's not over the top. Everyone can relate to that. It makes sense. And then we kicked off with a 2-day session, and yeah, it was funny. It was just really, really good. Basically from the word go, all my other staff were just bought in straight away. So, yeah.
Okay. So trial and error was sort of where you were at, and that sort of
personally, yeah, not within the business. I hadn't allowed the business to waste time trialing and error. I had sort of been trialing and error a lot in my head, and a lot of trying to suggest that people do things. But yeah, that was sort of the moment for me. I knew we needed something a little bit more. We needed to grow our maturity level, and we had sort of the never-ending to-do list, but just never ever ticking anything off. So the concept of this 90-day and rocks and all of these things just fit. I was like, wait, that is so obvious. Let's just do that. So yeah, we sort of committed to try it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I drank the Kool-Aid straight away. I did, and then the two people that I brought in my leadership team to the 2-day session, which is the thing you do in EOS at the start. On the way, they were like, we really don't know what this guy's going to get out of us, Aaron. That's literally how the conversation went. And at the end of it, it was like, oh my God, where did all that come from? That was amazing. So yeah, absolute buy-in, 100%. And I couldn't recommend it more to any other MSP on the call. It's a really great platform. So.
Okay. Well, this isn't the sales call for EOS, I should say.
No, I know it's not. And I'm not getting paid anything to say that either. So.
And I guess that's a good point. Anyone talking about a business framework, or listening in and thinking about maybe adopting one, do they cost money? Dan, maybe you're better off answering this. Does it cost money to use the EOS framework?
Yeah, so it doesn't. If you can self-implement, we call it, which is there's a whole traction library. So we have the main book that started the whole thing, which is called Traction, which is written by Gino Wickman, and a lot of businesses, in fact, I think it's estimated that for every one business that's working with an EOS implementer, that there are up to like 50 who aren't, just in the US alone, which is kind of the main foothold for EOS. So you can do it on your own, absolutely. And in fact, I love it when I hear of businesses and they say, I love EOS. We're running level 10 meetings. So they're not working with an implementer at the moment, but we're running level 10 meetings, and they sort of are a little bit embarrassed. And I say, that is awesome. I love that. That is nothing to be ashamed of. Like, it's really cool that you've had the initiative to go out and learn these things and then implement them yourself. I wish I could say the same that Aaron said, where he didn't do trial and error on the business. There's at least one former team member of mine in the attendees. They could attest to the fact that I tried everything before in my MSP. But yeah, you can work with an implementer. So there's an EOS implementer community, which I lead and coach in APAC. So there's 25 of us. And we charge what we call a session fee. So there's no, if you want to work with an implementer, we'll take you through every step of the journey. And the unique thing about working with an implementer is that there's no contract. We don't say, hey, we want you to ink here for a 2-year deal. We literally do it session to session. So we'll charge you a session fee. And here's the kicker, and this is something that no other coaching platform operating system does, is if you don't feel like you got value from those sessions, you don't pay. You just say, I didn't get value today, so Dan, I'm not paying. So I might cry myself to sleep that night and wonder where I went wrong, but I will learn from it and I'll never make that mistake again. And you will have learned hopefully something and potentially continue yourself or continue with an implementer. But there's no reason why you couldn't pick up a copy of Traction today, read it cover to cover, and then start implementing those tools immediately.
That's you've mentioned the book Traction a couple of times. I'll just sort of throw this out there for any qualified MSPs on the line as well. We are sending out a free copy of that as well. So, so that'll sort of give you, if you're interested in it, that'll give you a good starting point to, what the heck is EOS, and you can go from there, I guess. All right. So
we do have a question there, Ben, just quickly on I think it's relevant on the
go for it.
So yeah, Brendan asked, his understanding was a minimum 24-month commitment to engage with a coach. I'll let you take that, Dan, but I know that's not my experience, but you can answer that properly. So. Yeah,
no, absolutely not. And if someone has said that, then I need to know, because I'm the coach for the community. No, what we do actually, maybe where it could potentially be a little confused, is when we start the journey together, we say we would like you to consider this to be like a 2-year mental commitment, so that this isn't something that we just turn the key and voila, you have results. That it's going to be a 2-year usually journey of going from learning the tools and then through 2 years of annual planning. But there's no commitment, there's no minimum term. And like I said, that even if you feel like you didn't get value, then you don't pay. So it's there's definitely no. And I would say that most of the businesses, so I'm working with 23 MSPs right now, and most of them have been with me for longer than 2 years. But at every step of the way, I've said to them, you're in control. And there's an MSP, one of them that's stuck in my mind, that I said to them after the first year, you guys are rock stars. You've got this. I've never seen anyone implement this so quickly in their business. Just a reminder, you can go on your own at any time. I'm not the ball and chain.
I can sort of. Oh, sorry, I'll let you finish. Yeah.
Yeah, and they said to me, Dan, you're not. I'll clean it up. You're not going anywhere, because they liked having an external party to hold them accountable. It's like going to the gym. When you go on your own, you can get complacent and 8 reps is enough. I won't do the 10, or I'm not quite feeling it today. I might just call it quits after half an hour. But when you've got a personal trainer who you're paying to be there, and they say push, you're going to do 10, and you might not be feeling it, but we're doing the full hour. That's the sort of accountability that you get from external.
So there's some skin in the game in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there is, but I mean, I can see potentially the confusion around the 2-year thing because of, Dan, the 2-year plan, the cycles and the annual planning and all that. So there is a 2-year cycle there, and we've just finished our first 2 years, and I can hand on heart say that we've done and achieved more over the past 2 years than we have over the 5 years before that. It's awesome. Been a great growth thing for us, and just the buy-in has been amazing. It probably took us the first year to get our shit together, and then able to be the second year was really floating it down properly throughout the rest of the business and the teams. And even just recently, we found a certain team that were trying to cram their L10 meetings. And I guess for everyone that probably has no idea what we're talking about when we say level 10 meetings, that's the weekly meetings. We're trying to cram that down into sort of 25, 30 minutes, which ironically, we were having problems with that team. And that's when we found that out. And they weren't doing IDSing, which these are all terms from EOS, but they weren't talking about issues properly, which nothing was getting solved. And then we found the root of the problem was they weren't meeting properly. So it's really funny. At the start, we got told you will never meet, you will never have more meetings than you've ever had before. And we were like, no. And like every MSP probably on the line, surely we don't have time for that many meetings. Or I think someone said you'll meet with your your leadership team for an hour and a half every week, and we're like, no chance. How the hell are we going to have any time for that? And now if we miss one, I think we've missed one in 2 years, but it's like, Jesus, what happened? Like, we've got so much to catch up on. We've got all these things we need to sort out, and it's just amazing having that pulse and being able to solve dramas just instantly. Weekly is instantly if you were doing things like monthly meetings like we were before, and it's just far too long to address things, and everything's just. Nothing turns into a big issue anymore because it's just brought up, addressed, and moved on. And it's just like, sure, whatever.
So part of the process, the cycle.
It's just part of life. It's part of your week, and it's amazing part of your week. So
cool. Okay, so you've been running it for 2 years. You've already gone through the pain points, the challenges. So I guess what are some of the challenges that you faced early on that our audience should be prepared for with any business framework as well?
Yeah. So look, I know this I'm really spruiking the Kool-Aid on EOS today, but I have to honestly say they weren't challenges. They were good things. And I mean, I'm sure every business is in a different spot. But for us, the IDSing and getting uncomfortable stuff is probably the biggest challenge. And it's more of a challenge for certain people. But yeah, look, to answer your question, Ben, it's probably documenting all the issues or stuff that you want to get done or that are a problem, especially at the start, that first sort of 2 days that you do, you end up with 70 things on the board and you're like, Jesus Christ, we've got a lot of crap to sort out. But it's just amazing to see how quick it gets just ripped apart and just sorted out once you get into this framework and you get into the pulse and you move through it. So, so I guess the challenges, while they might seem like challenges, is really just getting everything out there, getting everything out of your head, getting all those things written down, and maybe looking at it going, Jesus Christ, how am I going to overcome that? But then the whole point of EOS is just breaking it down into little chunks and working through it. And it's amazing. Yeah, really, really good. So,
okay. So Luke, in terms of our implementation, I'm going to say that we run EOS very lightly. So, we don't run it religiously. It's kind of what suits us. And maybe that's not the best practice, but what are some of the pieces that, and maybe we've got more to go potentially as well, right?
100%,
so, everyone's at a different stage in their business life cycle. It's a journey. What do they say? It's a sprint, not a race. Never mind. But what are some of the challenges?
Marathon, not a sprint.
That's the one. Thank you.
It's a sprint, not a race. Hang on.
Yeah, I'm like, hang on, that doesn't make sense. No.
Sorry, we can edit that bit out.
Yeah, that's fine. Won't be in the recording. Luke, what are some of the challenges that we faced when we were considering it, and why did we do it? Like, what
Well, I suppose historically we've always tried to focus on partner experience, sometimes at the detriment of internal processes and documentation. It's just something that we used to be guilty of. And we still keep partner experience up front and center, but we recognized after reviewing all of these different methods and things, right, that we could identify that different teams were working independently, right? Like, for example, sales would do something and our service delivery team and our support team, we were effectively working in silos, right? Like, we were working individually. We would work we were working well, but we were hitting that ceiling. I can't remember, I think it was Dan or Aaron that mentioned it before. We were definitely hitting that kind of glass ceiling where we weren't able to break past it unless we changed something. And that's where we kind of went, okay, let's make sure that we have all the right people on the right seats on the bus going in the same direction. And if we can't, well, then let's try and see if this framework can help us do that. And that's when we really did a lot of research into all those different methods that I mentioned, and that's when we kind of started the journey.
Yeah, and I think
Interesting
from our
that
side,
you're
we're
right.
not there yet.
Sorry.
Go Dan.
So I was just going to say, Brendan wrote in the chat that the biggest challenge was the people analyzer. So that's kind of just pick up that point that you said there, Luke, that's the thing I see the most is the biggest challenge is having the right people in the right seats to be successful.
That's a recurring topic of these sessions that we've been talking about that as well. And I think that anyone on the line does need that. They need to do that, look inwards in that sense and sort of say, okay, do we have the right people?
Yeah.
And I think
most people, it's hard to know, like, how do you define right people, right seat? And that's one of the things that I love. I can remember 7 or so years ago, starting EOS implementation using an implementer as the MSP owner. And just thinking, he kept talking about right people, right seat. And I'm like, yeah, cool. Like everyone knows that. But how do you know those things? But literally by the end of your second day in the EOS process, you not only have you got defined who the right people are, also what the right seats are and what are the potential future seats, like what are the gaps, what are your blind spots. And once you have that, that is when the real work starts, like, because some of those calls are going to be people who are absolutely the right people. They share your values, they're the heart and soul, but they're just ineffective in their role. And that can be heartbreaking sometimes to think, actually, they're in the wrong seat. And so EOS gives you that opportunity to say, is there another seat for them? Do we need, when we look at our structure and needs of the business, is there another seat for them? Because if there isn't, as much as you love them, you're probably holding them back. And if you love them, you need to let them go. And same token, you might have a superstar, stellar performer who's absolutely in the right seat, but they're not the right person. They don't share your values. And in another way, they're actually going to bring you undone as well, because they become the standard and you compromise on your values with that person because they're performing well. And EOS forces you to confront that. You still have to do the work and want to do something about it, but that's absolutely the most common challenge that I see. And I can vividly remember that, being the MSP owner, going through that as well.
One of the best things that I found about, and God, we are speaking a lot about EOS, but it's just because it's just there, is the way that the framework doesn't break down an organization in a hierarchy, like a standard organizational chart, right? It breaks it down into your actual roles and responsibilities. And I remember when Ben and I were doing it, it kind of changed our mindset overnight. It was like, oh, everything fits now. We actually understand that person, maybe we can move them there, etc. And it was almost like a flip switch. I think Aaron mentioned that before. It was just like, wow, okay, let's do this. And as we kind of went through that journey of changing things, we were able to see the impact, or not overnight, but almost immediately. We could see people were happier. We had different outcomes, and we had a lot more positive outcomes. It was, we definitely went from a couple of people going in the wrong direction to, I always like to use the analogy, instead of a bus, we were on a speedboat going, literally everyone in the speedboat going in the same direction. It's a fantastic feeling.
Yeah. I love the speedboat analogy because they don't have brakes.
Yeah, exactly.
That's good.
Well, I think someone said to me at one point, it was, you mentioned before, Dan, it was like, you may love them, but it's, you may have to let them go because there is no seat. I think someone explained to me once, it was a story about, time to get a new pair of shoes. It's that kind of concept, right? If you put the wrong size shoes on the feet, you get, over time, it's going to burn and it's going to hurt and it's just going to wear that person down. And, put them into somewhere where they got the right shoes on, let them go. And then you find someone for those set of shoes.
We've actually got an upcoming topic, another for MSPs in conversation. I'm going to say this now before Meryl pings me to say it. That it'll be on human resources and finding and how to maintain staff, because it's been a recurring topic throughout this, and it's people are they're the lifeblood of our organizations, right? So there you go, Meryl.
It's a tough topic.
Thank you.
Like that sort of area. I'm yet to find anyone that can do that, easily and well. It's just one of those things.
Some people just have a knack for it. And sometimes you can go, like, I was talking to a partner today, maybe yesterday, and it was they were stagnant realistically, and it wasn't until they actually found someone they could trust to hand off to, and they're a smaller organization, right? As soon as they found that, their life changed, right? So it's but previously because the wrong people were on the bus. So with it, let's talk about like the size of MSP, right? So Dan Pownet was larger MSP really in our community. Rodens are fairly substantial. What size do you need to be? I mean, could you be a one-man band and implement something like an EOS business framework?
Yeah, so I don't necessarily look at it as size of business. So just for an example, I work with an MSP that is 12 to 15 people, and I also work with one who has several thousand employees, a couple of million in revenue into the hundreds of million in revenue. And EOS works in all of them because it's actually about like fundamentals. And the only difference between the really large business that I work with and the smaller one is the smaller one is more agile and they're able to adapt to respond. But the bigger one has deeper pockets. If they want to do something different, then they can fund it. But sometimes it can be like trying to steer the Titanic. But when you've got the smaller business, they're able to sort of be a bit more nimble. But realistically, to get the best use of EOS, you need to have more than one leader in the business because you need that duo to hold each other accountable. It's really difficult to maintain that traction on your own. So I've worked with lots of startups. I've started 2 businesses myself this year and used EOS from day one because I know it, and I've had a business partner in both of them, and it can work there. But what I commonly find in really young businesses is they don't know what they don't know. So when you're saying to them you need to have a 10-year target, they're like, yeah, I've been in business for like 10 minutes. I don't need a 10-year target. I'm like, well, you will one day. Or if they don't have someone to hold them accountable, then they're not able to, they can become complacent, like that personal trainer analogy. And I think I saw quickly mentioned there, it can be a cost barrier sometimes to doing it, to justify working with an EOS implementer. But there's no reason why you can't, like I said before, take the book and start. And I've worked with an MSP for the last nearly 4 years, and when they started, they went all in. This guy, picture him in my mind right now. He's like, we're doing this and we're gonna commit 100%. And they were around about, I think, 20 people, maybe 15 people, couple of mil in revenue, and they've just 3 and a bit years later just broke through 8 million in revenue and about 50 people. So 45, 50 people. And so it's about committing to that process and getting started. And so I love it when I hear of people that are trying things or trying to implement it, because it doesn't really matter. And I've busted that myth as well. People have said to me, oh, I think when we get to 50 people, that'll probably be top us out. And I'm like, well, PowerNet we're in proximity of 100 people when we were running it, and we still had plenty of runway. And I'm working with business with a couple of thousand employees. So there's I think the limit is only in your mind.
I would agree.
All right.
As for a one-man band, I don't think so, Ben. You need a couple there too.
Okay, and I guess that's good. So there is a minimum really where you're going to see the benefits. Would that be true?
Does that be the visionary integrator concept, Dan?
Yeah. And so I run EOS in one of my businesses that is just me and one other person, and it works really well, and it makes us efficient. But if I didn't have that other person, I'd just be talking to myself, which I do a lot of that actually. but I wouldn't, it's not true accountability. So it doesn't mean you can't leverage some of the tools, but you won't maintain that traction, I don't feel, without having a co-pilot. And it's quite often the visionary and the integrator. It's kind of like the person looking to the horizon and the head in the clouds, and then the one with the feet on the ground. It's kind of how I look at it.
Defines me quite well. Head in the clouds.
Yeah, that's why I'm laughing.
Shiny coin syndrome.
It's important. It is important to have those 2 different types of people, though. So
yeah,
very true. And from us as our organization, that was a big light bulb moment for us. And we've done a lot of that over the last sort of 2 years. COVID's been really good for it in the sense of, we couldn't go to events and whatnot. So we had this reflective time in that sense to be able to make these changes. And that light bulb moment of going, okay, well, me as the business owner, I'm not always the right person for the right job. And for me, it was a lot of this of, like I gave that example before, of trusting and actually going, okay, I got to let some stuff go, and letting the right people shine through. And that was a mindset change for me. And I think that, I was my own worst enemy there. And, Luke's in business, Luke's now my best friend because he helps me things actually come real. I can think about it and whatnot. And also turn around and go, no, that's a stupid idea. Go back into your box, and that helps as well. So,
it's important.
I think I was going to say, I think that's why it works though, is because there's the strengths and weaknesses and then the things that we cross over with, right? I mean, with business, you're only as good as kind of the mistakes you make and the lessons that you learn, right? And I mean, Ben's been doing this for a lot longer than I have. He's skilled in a lot of different things than I am. But that's why.
I'm also your boss. You have to say that.
Maybe. But no, but my point is that I think that's why the visionary integrator roles, as far as that kind of role and responsibility thing that I was talking about earlier, does work quite well, because it's not just about accountability. It's also recognizing that there are the people with the different strengths and weaknesses, right? Like I won't travel on too much about it, but yeah, I really do like the dynamic there.
Yeah, and I guess sorry to cut you off there, Ben, but in case there's any other MSPs on the line that were like in my shoes, I especially starting EOS, I thought I was the visionary and the integrator all in one. And in all fairness, I was when I went in there, and I got told that you can't be, and I sort of said, well, I am. So too bad. So we actually put myself on the two squares. But what it showed me was, and I guess for people that don't really know what we're talking about with visionary and integrator, I mean, I got my role because I was the integrator, but I needed to be the visionary, but I was being the visionary at the same time. So what it showed me was I needed the people around me, my leadership team, they needed to come up and being the integrators and the ones, because they're the ones that do the day-to-day. And I mean, I still very much do the day-to-day like you, Ben, but it is about letting go. And what I quickly realized in EOS was that I am sort of over here, always looking to the future. Let's do something else. I'll start it, but I absolutely need to hand it off to someone to then run with it, because I'm already thinking about the next 3 things ahead. And so I'm a little bit like a puppy dog with a ball, like, let's go. All right, I've started it. You guys now do it. And that's, once you get that flow working really well, it's really, really good, because otherwise I'll get something started and then I'm stuck on the integration of it and I get bored and go, well, I kind of want to go do that new thing. And then, yeah. And so that's what all that dynamic and what we mean by when we're talking about visionary and integrator. You need people around you to do the do and the day-to-day and integrate it into your business, and then keep on top of it, measure it, all that stuff. You sort of need to be thinking about what's next and sort of the measuring and the planning and all the stuff that comes with EOS. So all those tools.
Yeah. And I think for me, being our leader in that regard, is that as soon as the turning point for me that I've realized other people could do a better job than me as well at certain things, that when you're a smaller MSP, you do everything, right? And you know how to do everything. It's your way, because you know how you want things done. But once you give people that opportunity, and sometimes they need coaching and whatnot, and sometimes they aren't the right person. But when you do find that right person, and you're like, holy crap, you do a way better job of this than I ever could, And now from a hiring mindset, that's what I keep in mind. I bring in people that are always going to do a better job than what I am, right? Knowing that my capabilities are limited, right? In certain areas, I've got my strengths, but I bring in other people that complement those, from deliver extra things. Cool. Okay. So we've talked a little bit about the size of an MSP that they could be, and the limits, which doesn't really sound like that either. Most of our MSPs for the audience are going to be in the SMB space. So, but we've talked a little bit about team, right? Having the right team, and definitely, that mindset piece of it. Aaron, was there a mindset change for you when you implemented it? Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. The GWC, mindset about the people. The GWC concept is brilliant. Dan, it's so good just to be able to,
Okay, maybe can we get a bit of
absolutely,
what is that for the?
Do you want me to explain it?
You can do it. I mean, I don't mind, but I'll let you do it. It's your thing. It's your
yeah.
thing.
So yeah, we've got it. It's quite funny when you start throwing EOS acronyms at MSPs, because MSPs usually think, yeah, I've got this. I've got every acronym under the sun. Like we live on those things, and then EOS introduces a whole new collection. So I'll tee up GWC, and then Aaron, I'm sorry to interrupt, you can continue on, but GWC is the right seat element. So we talk about right people, right seat. GWC stands for they get it, they want it, and they have capacity to do it. So when you look at like the roles and responsibilities for each individual, each seat in the business, we ask ourselves every 90 days, as through my coaching, we recommend doing at least twice a year. Does that person still get it? Do they still want it? And do they still have capacity to do it? And asking that question of ourselves as leaders first, and it's just a yes or no answer. And then asking that of each person in the business, appraising them against what we're asking them to do, it's super, super powerful. Anyway, Aaron, I couldn't resist. Keep going.
No. And I can't agree more. And it's really that exercise doing that. When you sort of put everyone on the board or whatever, however large your team is or however small it is, you sit there and think, Jesus, yeah, they don't have capacity to do it. And that's either time or mental capacity training, whatever it is. But getting it and wanting it, that's a really interesting thing, because you might think, yeah, everyone I employ, they understand it. They get what they have to do. They want it. But when you really sit down, especially if you're starting to have issues with staff, do this exercise, and then suddenly it's, I don't know if this is a us thing or a EOS thing, Dan, but it's 2 strikes and you're basically out. If it's two out of those 3 letters don't fit, it's okay. Well, you've either got to turn it around right now, we've got to fix that, or you're gone. One is still a problem. We still have to fix it. But yeah, it's incredibly powerful just to do that. And you talked about right seats before. We've got a technical team of about 15-ish full-time people. And we did this late last year again, and we did this exercise, and we realised it was someone that had been with us for 22 years, and they'd sat in the same seat for 22 years. And yeah, they were awesome at it, but they were also causing other issues. So it was a simple GWC exercise, and we moved them around into a different role, and suddenly now they're great over there, and those other issues are gone. So it's a truly a very, very powerful tool. And yeah, so that changed the mindset, Ben, coming back to your original question, that definitely changed the mindset. But just, yeah, seeing the seats, having that accountability chart, the seats of what everyone does, documenting what they need to do, and then GWCing against it. It's an incredible, again, stupidly obvious thing to do, but when you actually do it, and it's a great exercise, and the outcome is amazing. But defining core values, what's the saying, Dan? It's hire and fire against GWCing to hire and fire and things like that. We use our core values on everything. We use the GWC on everything. We live and breathe EOS now, if you can't already tell, but it's but all the feedback in every quarterly check-in and every time we do it, it's honestly, EOS is working. What's the best thing? All the tools in EOS, I can never, if there's ever one, it's the L10s. Just that frequency and that meeting pulse and communication, it's really, really great. So
I think that's part of the topic. Sorry, go ahead, Luke.
I was going to say just one tool, and to be honest, I don't know if this is part of EOS, but we definitely got it implemented, and it's worked wonders for us, is a tool that we use called one-on-ones. So on top of the department meetings, on top of the level 10s or anything else that we run, either Ben or myself will sit with each person of the team for half an hour every week or fortnight, just depending. And we really try and engage with those staff, right, to understand if they get it, if they still want it, if there's any issues that we can assist with or try and guide it, because sometimes day-to-day things just get in the way. And these one-on-ones have really helped us, and I can confidently say have really helped our team grow and become better people. They've better staff members, more effective. And it's also highlighted very quickly the staff members that didn't get it. or that were really drifting off on a different course, which of course we had to go through there on that way. But I just wanted to highlight that just in case, because I know sometimes trying to look at these frameworks and apply it to a small business can be a little bit scary. Something like one-on-ones can be implemented, virtually overnight, and it's very, very easily to kind of start tomorrow sort of thing. So definitely want to bring it up.
So my next piece of it was, okay, what are some small key takeaways that someone can implement quickly, right? So whether it be something like a one-on-one, Aaron, you mentioned the level 10 meeting. Is there, of EOS, Dan, is there, what are the key takeaways for someone to get a taste of what a business framework, in this case EOS, could give them?
So many of them are really simple and unintimidating to start. So I would actually look at them and pick the one that either addresses the pain or represents the most gain in the business. So when we have this thing called the 90-minute meeting, which is like a free sort of consultation for people to learn about EOS. And some of the questions we ask in that is like, how regularly do you meet with your leadership team? And some people say anything from daily to weekly to monthly. And we'll say, so if you were to rate those meetings out of 10, what would you rate them? And I've had everything from, they're a solid 2 out of 10 to, 7 and 8. And that's why we call it a level 10 meeting, because it sounds really, really clunky, really odd. But that meeting format, there's a really simple one-page agenda that you can download from EOS's website for free. And it's the most downloaded thing from the EOS website is a level 10 meeting agenda. That is something that you can do if it's just two of you in a smaller MSP, either a GM and the founder or 2 business partners or whatever. You can start level 10 meetings on a weekly basis. You could start tomorrow. There's a YouTube channel that walks you through how to run them as well. You could do that immediately. And then that generally gives people a bit of a taste for how simple some of this stuff is. And then you'll realize there are some things that you can drop into that format and things become easier. Because I always want people to really start to think about things like their scorecard. So if you know what your critical numbers are, if people can say, these are the 5 numbers that I need to know on a week-to-week basis, that I need to know whether they're on track or not. Only 5. If I said to you, you can only pick 5, and that's a challenge for an MSP because we can bloody measure everything.
That's right.
We've got Power BI, we've got Bright Gauge, you name it. But if you start with level 10 and then start thinking about your scorecard, your 5, maximum 10 numbers that would tell you the finger on the pulse, the health of your business at any point in time. If you can get that, those 2 things alone will give you control, because you'll have good connection as business leaders, good conversation at least once a week, and you'll know your vitals. It's like your blood pressure, your pulse, your oxygen saturation. Knowing those sorts of things is what keeps you alive. If you know what the equivalent of those are for your business, that in itself can be a game changer. Even if you don't know, putting yourself in a position to find them, it can be a huge benefit, like out of the blocks.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so I was half listening myself then.
It's incredible. Exactly. I gauge our L10s. As a part of the agenda is checking the scorecard, and just that scorecard is incredible. And we've got scorecards now, top level, all the way down to every single employee in the business. Everyone has a number, so as the saying goes. But that scorecard, we can see trends now. We can pick them before they're an issue. Oh, hang on, that number wasn't hit. Okay, that number hasn't been hit 2 weeks in a row. What do we got to do that? Bang, bang, bang. And it's not all sales. It's anything. Measure phone calls, ticket numbers, this, that. As you said, we can we can measure everything in an MSP, and it's incredible when you have that kind of control and and having other conversations with other business leaders or MSPs or anything. And you sort of, it's funny. Sometimes I ask the question, oh, what do you how many of this do you do a week? And they're like, oh, I don't know. Maybe this. And I'm like, what, you don't measure that? And I realized that was me 2.5 years ago, not measuring it either. But it's incredible on how, when you have that data in front of you and how important it is. And some of it's not that hard to get. It's just, you kind of maybe have a mental gauge of how that's flowing along, but put it on a scorecard and suddenly look at the patterns and you're quickly find issues that you didn't even know were there. So
Yeah, the second you do that, you start making database decisions as well. There's no more,
yeah.
it's a gut feel. I think.
Yeah, no, you're predicting the
think-
future with
Dangerous.
real numbers. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's funny. Sometimes you predict that right. Your gut feel is right, but it's funny how many times you're wrong. And you're like, oh shit, that's happening because of that. I had no idea. But can I give a shout out? And I don't know, this is probably, it's definitely not an EOS thing. I don't know, Dan, if you share it like Ben does, but Colby's incredible.
Yeah.
That was a real eye opener for me as well.
Yeah, so Colby is definitely part of the EOS stable. It's effectively, it's a one of a kind profiling tool. So when I say one of a kind, it's not like your DISC or Myers-Briggs or anything like that. It's a way to assess your people, and it's like $50 I think per person, and it assesses we start with the leadership team. For your natural instincts, what is your natural MO? And what that does is it gives you a really good snapshot, simple way to understand what makes people tick. How are they hardwired? Because most of the, like, I don't want to rubbish any other profiling tool, but you can somewhat game a lot of them and think, actually, I'd like to have more of a visionary profile. So you can start to be a little outlandish. Well, this Colby A in particular, Colby A assessment, it picks up if you're gaming it. And it will say your results are inconsistent. Why don't you try this again in 3 months?
Yeah. It doesn't give you the score. It just says no.
Yeah.
But
it allows you to
awesome.
sort of piece the puzzle together, especially at a leadership team level. And if you're visionary and integrator, Aaron, you would have a fascinating Colby profile.
Well, no, again, the Colby highlighted that I'm absolutely not a visionary and integrator.
Okay.
I'm a visionary. So
Okay.
it's just to highlight that point of when you go through it, what you think you are, you quickly realize you're not. But yeah, the Colby, you're just doing it to yourself. If you're not going to do it to the rest of your staff just yet, highly recommend it. It's a big eye opener, and reading the report and you sit there and think, yeah, shit, that is me. That is why I make those decisions. And then doing it to other people, and you're like, right, okay, I'm not going to throw. Or it's funny because sometimes you don't get frustrated. You're like, right, that's why that person's like that. They're not as quick starting as me and want to move on to stuff. They're more slow, research, integrate, do the stuff. So it's an incredible tool, and highly recommend it.
Yeah, well, that kind of leads to my next question, because we are sort of coming to the end of the session. But what are some of the, I guess, tips? So we've got Colby to take away, right? So I guess summing up a little bit, is there anything else that anything else that the MSPs on the line could?
The thing that sort of is the glue that holds all of the whole framework together is this thing called the Vision Traction Organizer. It's effectively a 2-page business plan, and you can download that for free on the website as well. In fact, it's in Traction. Traction will show you, and there's a follow-up book to it called Get a Grip that'll show you that. And what the heck is EOS takes you through it as well. So that tool, if you printed that out on A3, got yourself a glass of red or whatever your poison is, glass of water or gin and tonic, and then just go through and try and put answers in every box on that, like core values, 10-year target, your marketing strategy, who's your target market, your 3-year picture, 1-year plan, what are you doing the next 90 days, all that sort of stuff. That's a great starting point. And that'll tell you what you don't know as well. And it just gives you a really good way to start thinking about where you could actually take this. And that, again, all of these tools are freely available to download. And I recommend that you have a crack at almost any of them. But that VTO is like that's the thing that keeps the whole operating system relevant and front of mind.
I've always thought of it like a one-page business plan. Yeah, it's pretty much just do this no matter what.
Yeah, 100%. And if you mess that up, well, not if you mess that up, but if you don't stick to your goals and the things you set, then it's all gonna the bigger picture will unravel. Your meeting pulses and things might stay the same, but hitting those goals and things like that won't. But if you're anything like we were, sitting there, you're not doing any of this stuff properly, and then you get asked what's your 10-year goal. sit there and go,
You can't answer it.
no, you can't answer it.
No
And then you get some, well, just shoot something out there. And you're like, I don't know, 20 million revenue. It's all right, let's run with that. It's like, I literally have no clue if that's even achievable, but sure, why not? So it's just, it's just funny that I think I'm sure, Dan, you've been across this more than I, but if you ask any MSP that, well, not any MSP, but most MSPs, they would not have a clue what their 10-year plan is, let alone a 5 and sometimes even 12 months. So.
Yeah, I think that needs to be understood, that that's perfectly okay to not know those things, because that's the place you start thinking about, actually, what does this look like? And I've had 2 business owners that have been in business for 15 years, and one says, oh, we want to be 100 million in revenue, and the other one says, actually, I'm okay with 15. And so then we start to understand what actually is important to people, and it might not actually be revenue at all. So, that's some of the great conversations that come from just asking yourself those questions.
I think that's really worth noting as well, because, as I know, especially from our community, that there's a very diverse range of why people are actually in business.
Yeah.
Is it a lifestyle business? Are they, out to be the next, I don't know, starting a space company, what is his name, Elon Musk or whatever the case, is that where you want to be, the next Amazon?
What is his name, Ben?
What is his name?
Who's that guy with the rockets?
They've all got them. You've got the Virgin Galactic and everyone.
Oh yeah, we've all got
it's like
rockets in the backyard.
The next cool thing, right? Is that where you want to be, or do you want to
Down
be
by
a
the
lifestyle?
pool, Aaron?
Yeah, that's it, mate. That's why I dug it out. I need my launch pad, mate.
But that's it. Your personal goals and things like that. And I think that sometimes actually having something to ask you that and enable you to reflect that, sometimes the answer is not quite what you'd expect. And especially even when you deal with other people, I used to have a business partner, and, who's no longer a business partner with me, because when we asked ourselves that, we didn't align, we weren't working in the same direction. And that's, and that's okay, right? It doesn't matter. It's okay to be a lifestyle business. It's okay to want to start a rocket company. If that's where you want to go, that's okay, and then that it sort of enables you to go through that, to work towards that. Cool. Okay. We've got a quick question. So we've got so that's for the web address. We will send out a copy of Traction to everyone. Like I mentioned before, Traction is probably a good introduction to EOS to get you started. And like Dan mentioned, there are links to a lot of these free resources in there as well. But Dan, what's the best, if that's going to take a week or so to get to everyone, if it's a hot topic now for the people on the line, where could they go to sort of get a little bit more info?
You go to, I was just trying to double check. I promise I wasn't doing anything else. If you go to eosworldwide.com, the website has just recently been updated, but there's a get started button. It has a little call to action, but if you just fill that out, and you can unsubscribe afterwards if you like, you fill it out and it'll send you a link to the tools. And the tools include all the things that I've mentioned, including the business plan, the vision, traction, organizer, level 10 meeting agenda, scorecard template, even an accountability chart template. All of those things are on there. And that's, if you were to chip away at those, Traction will pretty much guide you through, the book will guide you through how to do those things as well. Or if you're impatient like me, you can just listen to the what the heck is EOS Audible while you wait for Traction, and Traction will become your reference when it arrives. Yeah,
a good book. What the heck is EOS? It's how I got into it, because Traction was a little bit thick for me, so I started with this one and then went into Traction. It was really, really good.
Yeah, well, what the heck is EOS was a great sort of innovation that's designed for employees to understand, and now it actually becomes an introduction to anyone who wants to know about EOS. Yeah.
I think that Traction book does go into a lot more real world detail for, I suppose, the people on the call. Like it's going to have much more of an impact.
Yeah, 100%.
I think you touched on it before as well, Dan, that YouTube, there's heaps of stuff on YouTube running through the different resources and whatnot. So if you want to sort of, get a bit more of a visual indicator, that's a great way to go as well. More bite size, cool. All right. Well, look, awesome. We're at time today, guys. So I'd like to say a huge thank you. If you've got any questions, feel free to pop them on the line. We'll stick around for a few minutes. But that's all we've got, all the questions I've got for today. So yeah, so thank you guys. It's been an absolute pleasure having you.
Awesome.
Fascinating
Lucky
stuff.
you put a time limit on it. Aaron and I could probably go all day on this topic. So
yeah,
100%.
the first one we did of these, we just kind of kept on going. We're like, oh, you know, and in our catch up afterwards, it was like, yeah, you know, people have got things to do. So
yeah, good call.
You know, but there's lots of resource that you can continue. So hopefully this has been enough to sort of, you know, get you thinking about how, you know, business frameworks can actually improve your business. Cool. All right. Well, looks like we don't have any extra questions today, so we will leave it there. Again, thank you guys. Thank you for joining us. Hopefully you enjoyed your Uber Eats lunch. And until next time, Meryl, what is our next one before I just close it off?
Yeah, we have our next MSPs in conversation in a couple of weeks on the 16th. It talks about hiring, firing, and training staff. And I know that's a very popular topic and seems to be a running theme in all of our MSPs in conversations, even today. And there's also a technical workshop that is on tomorrow on our Desktop as a Service, but we'll send you a link as always to our events, as well as a link to the resources that we spoke about today.
Cool. Well, again, thank you guys. Thank you for everyone for attending. It's been wonderful.
Beautiful.
Thanks
everyone.
Thanks guys. See ya.
See you guys. Bye.
Bye.